Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, then I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. What is going on, folks of CFN, friends of CFN, family of CFN? Hope all of you have had yourselves a great weekend. Hope you are looking forward to your week. Hope Monday wasn't too bad to you. Perfect public service announcement, and I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted when I say this. If you ever take time off work, take time off work, please enjoy yourself. Enjoy. Reason I say that is because when you come back, doesn't matter if you're off one day or a week, you will find that, and it's not work's fault, it's just amazing to see how much stuff is piled up because of you not having your work done, or perhaps maybe stuff just gets piled up because somebody else doesn't want to do it. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, enjoy your time off. That's my public service announcement. Enjoy your time off, because when you get back, you get lambasted. James Shembry, I am so I just tried to do it. Had one of your tungsten jig heads on the weekend. Got a bite, man. I'm telling you, if you are interested in some beautifully painted jig heads, tungsten jig heads, please get in touch with my buddy James there. He's got some beautiful stuff. Unfortunately, it won't allow me to share it, James, but it was the perch design that you had. And the thing I love about it, for all of us who love their plastics, it's got a really long shank, really long hook shank on it. So you can feather a plastic quite a ways up before you have to pierce it through to set it up and rig it properly. But needless to say, Steve Shaw left it behind. But it was one of your baits. I used it this weekend and worked like a charm. So if you are looking for some tungsten jig heads, got a bite, and our good buddy James Shembry is the one that you want to call. Beautiful stuff. Paint still on it, didn't chip. It looks brand new, just like it came out of the package. Steve Shaw's in the house. How you doing, Steve? Thanks for everything that you're going to do tonight and that you do each and every day of the week to make us all proud to be CFNers. I don't have a lot of announcements today because we have an action-packed show, lots to get to. Of course, we are on the eve of the Winter Fish Fest, so Mike's going to be here to discuss that. Jim's here with a couple lures that he wants to discuss. Lawrence is talking about the increase potentially of commercial fishing in the Great Lakes. So I'm interested to hear how that and where it came from, because as I said, we didn't give a lot of time before we went to air to talk about it. So I want to talk more about that, especially for some of you anglers who love fishing the Great Lakes. You might take interest in this. And of course, Jay's going to be around, and it's a segment that Jay and I are going to spend a little bit more time on. Some of the upcoming events. If you have a fishing derby, if you have a nice fishing event, maybe it's a day long, maybe it's week long, maybe it's a month long, much like the Winter Fish Fest. Perhaps you want it broadcasted, shared. We want to start doing that on a regular basis, and we're going to talk about it here on live. So if you have any upcoming events, or you know of anybody that has some upcoming events, coast to coast, doesn't matter, border to border, or I should say Arctic to the border, by all means, please pass them along to us, because we want to we want to share the love, and we want to get folks fishing. At the end of the day, everybody asks, why do you do this, Scotty? I want to get people fishing. Fernando Sousa's in the house. Adrian Junker, what's up, brother? Nice to see you, my friend. Richard Dunlop's in the house. Chris Moore's with us. Lloyd, as always, buddy, really appreciate everything that you do. Adele, nice to see you, Adele. Hope everything's good in your life. Jeremy, how you doing, Jeremy? Blue Rock Charters, how you doing, my friend? Always busy, seeing lots of your posts. We got to start sharing some more of your stuff. because I see you have clients out on a regular basis. Corey, I would have to say when it comes to longevity, I don't believe that you've missed a game due to injury or any other reason. I don't believe you've missed a show for any reason under the sun that I can think of. So, Corey, really appreciate you showing up here every week as you do, and interacting, sending out comments, and asking some really cool questions. So, Corey, appreciate that. What's up, Tony? You were right up there with our good buddy Corey. Lots of small caught. I saw that, Jeremy. I saw some of your posts. Some beautiful stuff. Again, we share all of our sport fish, but some of the other stuff like smelt, which is more of a traditional catch here in Canada, we'd like to share more of that. There was one that we shared of Ed Ball had his young daughter. They were cleaning smelt in the kitchen. It was an adorable thing, adorable little video. Anyway, she loved it. Didn't get grossed out by it at all. But stuff like that we want to get back to. Of course, as I said, we're getting back to our roots, and we want to involve everything that is traditional, otherwise known of, and something that we have been doing here in Canada for a very, very long time. Yeah, Comcast, absolutely. Jeremy, thanks for mentioning that. Again, not 100% sure if it's going to be the two venues, if it's going to be the arena and the building, but I do believe there is talk about that. There is a lot of interest. So as I said, that is, Jeremy just put April 2nd. Not to mention, we are going to be at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show as OFC Nation. We have Camp McIntosh giveaway, and a reminder of Camp McIntosh as well as Horwood Lake Lodge. Please book it, get it booked. Spots are filling up as we speak. We're beyond halfway in both camps. So August is Horwood Lake Lodge. Camp McIntosh is in September, but Spring Fishing and Boat Show February 17th and 19th. We will be at the International Center. We're going to be giving one of these away, so make sure you come by the OFC Nation booth, put in your ballot, and you will get a 2-night, 3-day stay at Camp McIntosh if you win. Sorry, Mike, I just got to remove this for a sec. Okay. It's all good, dude. Also, the Ottawa Boat Show, which is the following weekend, February 23rd to 26th. That is in, as I said, Ottawa at 4899 Uplands Drive. Just got our confirmation that we're going to be there. Thanks to our big buddy Jim. Thanks for that, buddy. It is at the EY Center. So hopefully you're familiar with where that is. Steve Shaw say 2 buildings for the Comcast. Awesome. Pete Leduc's in the house. How you doing, Pete? Jay Kerman, nice to see you, buddy. Oh, yes, there it is. There's the link. Thanks, Steve, for sharing that. So, again, February 23rd to 26th, we will be there as CFN/OFC Nation. So, please come by, say hello. I think we're going to have quite the response. I'm expecting quite a few people to show up, to say the least. What's up, Manny? Good evening, CFN family, ladies and gents. News yesterday of the Hurricane Hazel. So, yeah, I was going to get to that, but thanks for reminding me, Manny, again, for all of us anglers who appreciated Hazel McCallion. I think any Canadian, depending on your age, would know who Hazel is, regardless of where you live. Everybody, longest standing mayor for the city of Mississauga. She could have probably run as PM. I believe she had the following. I think her latter stages of her career may have been overexposed in certain negative things that happened. But at the end of the day, you know what? Anybody who lived in Mississauga, for the most part, loved what she did. She certainly had the anglers at heart. She would go to the Spring Fishing and Boat Show every year. Jim and I will talk about that when we come up with his segment. But thanks, Manny. Yes, absolutely. Our thoughts and prayers go out with the family and our condolences for your loss. So, yeah, appreciate that. So as I said, Horwood is in August. Camp McIntosh is in September. And the Winter Fish Fest starts this weekend, February 1st. So here's Mike to tell us more. What's up, Mike? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Scotty. Hey, everyone, part of the CFN family. Man, every time I go on and I see people with jerseys or CFN hoodies or CFN apparel, it just warms my heart seeing so many people across the nation, like you said, coast to coast, from border to Arctic, being part of the CFN family.
100%, dude. I couldn't agree more. It's why when we go to these shows, Mike, and folks like a Manny would stop by, or a Mike Howard, or anybody else that comes to the shows, and you could tell, like, it's just I don't know what they I don't know what their feelings are personally about CFN, other than the fact that when they show up, they're just very appreciative to be a part of a community. And Steve did a post this past weekend that was spot on in regards to belonging to a community, and I thought it was so apropos with the shows coming up. At the end of the day, you know what? You've got a listening ear. You've got people like yourself who are willing to help when it comes to, just delving through the electronics and social media and what have you, not to mention, some tips, trips, and techniques when it comes to the fish offs and all those competitions. But it's awesome, man. I'm with you there.
Yeah, and that's why we do it. And so if we can create an opportunity for people to come together through online tournaments, through sharing, through education, that's why we do it, because we know how many hours it takes to do it, but it's all worth it. It's all worth it when we see the response and the joy that it brings. So that's what we're talking about today. So Scotty, I have a whole bunch of questions lined up. I'll put them on the screen if you ask me each one.
Okay,
we'll just go rapid fire.
Okay.
Let's start with this one here.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Let me erase this. Okay. I keep doing it. Sorry. When is the Winter Fish Fest? Great question.
That is February 1st. So February 1st to 28th, any fish you catch during that month of February can be eligible for the Winter Fish Fest, which means I believe that's Wednesday, right, Scotty?
Yep, it is. It's this week, dude. 100%.
So if you're fishing, all you got to do is enter anything you catch from February 1st to 28th, and that will enter you into the Winter Fish Fest.
Absolutely. Great question. And I hope everybody involves themselves. And if you are a family and you want your team showcased on our CFN Fish Off Facebook page, would you please reach out to me? Text your family. We also made a post. In fact, you know what? As Mike and I go on and talk more about this, I want you guys to just downsize this and go to that post and make sure you hashtag your family, because we want to make sure you guys all have your individual posts that you can share your fishes and your catches with.
All right, next question there, Scotty.
I've got, when is the Winter Fish Fest?
There it is. I'll put it up for you.
Can I enter using the MyCatch app?
That is correct. So one way to enter is to go to anglersatlas.com, click the events tab, and that's how you register for the Winter Fish Fest, and that's how you use the app. So we will use the app to track all the species and all the fish, regardless of size, regardless of species that you catch, and that'll enter you into the tournament. So that's one way. Here's the next question.
Yes. Can I enter directly on Facebook as I have just discussed? Mike, please.
Exactly. So you could enter your fish on the MyCatch app, but there's also a way to enter your fish on Facebook. So the next question I'm going to answer right now is, can I enter my fish on the MyCatch app and Facebook? Here's the thing. There's prizes related to the MyCatch app, and there's also prizes related to Facebook. And if you want to be eligible for both prizes, do both. Enter on the MyCatch app, enter directly to Facebook, and that will make sure you're eligible for all the slew of prizes that we are giving out for the Winter Fish Fest.
Awesome, Mike. Right on. Perfect.
All right.
Great segment.
Next question is right here.
How do I enter the Winter Fish Fest?
So how do you enter? It's all about catching as many fish as possible. So for the MyCatch version, if you catch 12 perch and enter it through the app, that's 12 ballots into our draw. For the Facebook version, if you post your video on Facebook and you post 6 videos, that's 6 ballots into the draw. If you post your family picture, and we'll talk about that, and all the details are at cfnfishoff.com, that will enter you into our family draw. So we got our MyCatch draw, we got our Facebook draw, and then we also have our family draw. Lots of details, different ways to enter, but we want to make it as easy as possible for whoever is out there. So look at all the details located at cfnfishoff.com.
Jason Barnucz has a great question. Does each angler in a family require their own MyCatch account?
So there's 2 ways to answer that. One, if you're posting directly on Facebook, then you don't even need a MyCatch account. All you have to do is post all your family catches on our CFN Fish Off Facebook page. However, if you want to qualify for all the individual prizes, each family member would have to have their own account on the MyCatch app. So Jason would have his account. He would enter all his fish, and then all his children will have their own account. They can enter all their fish. The thing is, depending how old your kids are, they might have their own device. But if they don't, for instance, I can have my account and then my daughter's account and then my wife's account. We could use the same device, but just toggle between accounts depending who catches the fish.
Right on. Sonia has a great point that I'm glad she asked this question, because yes, the answer is if there are multiple events happening at the very same time. In fact, they might even be happening on the MyCatch app itself, right, Mike?
Correct.
And you will be able to qualify your entries not only with whatever event it is that you're participating at that weekend or that day, but you'll also be able to enter it into the CFN Fish Off, the Winter Fish Fest.
So let's say you're fishing for jumbo perch for the Lake Simcoe event. Put that into the Lake Simcoe event and put it into the MyCatch app and post it on Facebook. It doesn't matter to us if you're competing in multiple events simultaneously. We just want you out fishing, and we want to, make you eligible for a whole bunch of awesome prizes.
And that's it. That's at the end of the day, go out and catch a fish, and there's a good chance that you could win a prize. Gabriel, how you doing, man? Good to see you, my friend. Nice to see you joining us tonight. Eve, always a pleasure to see you as well. There is the Facebook CFN Fish Off page link. Please get to know it. Once we start the Winter Fish Fest on Wednesday, there will be no other posts other than entries, just because there's so much to police as it is right now, to take away that, arduous task to both Mike and the judges. We want to make sure that all the posts that get sent to us are ones for the competition. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Next question right here. What are the prizes that you can win for the Winter Fish Fest? So I'm just going to add my screen here, Scotty. Here's the page, cfnfishoff.com. Just click Winter Fish Fest, and that'll take you to all the rules and regulations. Again, different ways to participate, but you will see a list of all the prizes. But on top of that, we will have some weekly draws courtesy of our amazing CFN sponsors. So we got 9 prizes there. Plus, every week, Tourney Tuesday, come join Scotty and I. We'll give some other prizes away as well.
100%. So, Mike, before we run, was there anything else that you wanted to mention just before we bring Jim in?
The last thing is, if you're not registered before February 1st, that is okay. Because let's say you're only going fishing on February 10th, you could register at that time. So anytime between February 1st and the 28th, register anytime, catch fish anytime, submit your fish anytime. Every single fish is a ballot.
Great point. And David is asking, does size matter?
Size does not matter. In the Fish Off, we have an 8-inch limit in terms of minimum size. However, for the Winter Fish Fest, it doesn't matter if it's an 8-inch perch or a 12-inch perch. It doesn't even matter if it's a goby. Any species, any size is one ballot. I know Bill Andrew is telling me, so Mike, I can catch 100 6-inch perch and get 100 ballots into the draw. And I go, Bill, as many fish as you want to catch, you can enter every single one for a ballot.
Now, one last question, Mike. This is coming up a lot. I see this a lot from folks. Can I see if I'm registered? At the end of the day, some folks are seeing it, some folks are not. Is there anything that we can help them or tell them that they may not be doing or they need to do?
Some of you might have pending registration. Me and the team are going through them all, approving them. So if you have registered and it's pending, you won't see your name. But once we approve it, and you should go there now because I've approved a bunch of them, just scroll through the list of participants. We're approaching 200 participants registered on the MyCatch app. So just scroll through the list. You should see your name there. And if not, reach out to me and I can help you out.
Beautiful. Mike, as always, my friend, thanks so much for joining us. And Corey, your answer, when are we going to get the 48th, the lower 48th involved? We will. It's on our radar. Unfortunately, as it is right now, the CFN Fish Off stipulates that all fish have to be caught in Canadian waters. You don't have to be Canadian if you catch them, but you have to be caught in Canadian waters. So if you can manage to cross the border, buddy, and send it personally to me if you can't enter because you are from the States, I will enter you myself, especially in the open category, because I know we're going to have an open category. Stay tuned to that. Mike, as I said, bud, thanks so much for joining us and spending your Mondays with us, explaining everything that we need to know about the Winter Fish Fest.
All right, gentlemen, have an amazing time, and we'll see you Tourney Tuesday, next Tuesday, right here.
And when does the Winter Fish Fest start, Mike?
February 1st, on Wednesday, baby.
Beautiful. Jim McLaughlin's up right after this. Big Jim in the house. How you doing, Jim?
Good, buddy. Good. Yourself?
Living the dream, as they say, dude. Living
Everybody
the dream.
out there happy?
Let's hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say with this weather, the way it's turning, folks who have been jonesing for some hard water action are getting what they wish for. Again, our biggest concern, as we always talk about, Jim, you and I, is ice safety. And with all that snow, I don't know.
Well, it's going to freeze up everything that's there anyway, you know?
Let's hope so.
I mean, it's some of those nights are looking pretty cold, and some places already got some pretty cold nights, you know?
Now, I know we're talking about cold, minus 29, I think they have forecasted for Friday night, I believe.
Yeah, we got 32 here, they say, and I think 35 in Ottawa, if it happens.
Now, with that, of course, our folks to the west who have had to endure weeks of minus 25 plus, that's nothing for them. But for us who have been, in some cases, out with shorts and T-shirts on, this is culture shock for us. So, yeah, winter has finally arrived, as they would say.
Yeah, coldest day I ever saw was when I was working for Delta Hotels when I was more of a youngster, was in New Brunswick, and the temperature on the local news in the morning was minus 40 Fahrenheit.
Oh, man.
And that's, there's a lot of thermometers. I've seen my thermometer here show minus 38. It wasn't minus 38. You know what I mean? They're not right. When you look up the temperature records, they're always lower than what people think they are.
Yeah.
They go on, they say, oh yeah, it's minus 46 here. No, it's not.
Yeah. Well, as Pete just mentioned, there is that reminder, regardless of how safe it looks, now that it's snow covered, make sure you're spudding out, especially if you don't know the water you're going out. I know Jay talks about it all the time. We don't have to speak to the people that are here. I don't hear or see any of you folks going through. We're just hoping that at some point the right people or the wrong people listen to the right message, and we don't have to talk about them every month.
The people that fall through aren't always anglers either.
That's true.
That make the noise, or that or that make the news. The poor lad that drowned up by North Bay there that went through, they had to look for a bit. I don't believe they were fishing. It was just a family out, and I talked to my daughter because they're up just below Mattawa, and they're on one of the big trails that runs through North Bay and up to Sudbury and everything. And they actually, that's what they've become. They've become like a what would you call it, a B&B or something like that.
Yeah, Airbnb. Yeah.
Thing for Skidoo people at night. They come in at night, they book their time, and they blow in at 10 o'clock, sleep, have breakfast, and they're gone again. And they're right on the trails. They all have the machines and everything. And they told me, she said to me the other day when I was talking to her, she said, "Daddy, the swamps and things like that, the groomers can't go over them yet." And she said, like, and they got more snow. They got giant snow last night. Well, the other day when we talked to you, you said you get more snow. And I said, we're getting a few flurries. Then all of a sudden, bang, it snowed 8 inches here again.
Yeah.
Cost me another $100 to get the lane in the back plowed for the propane truck. So I'm not impressed this winter. The scary thing is, I remember when I was young, because I was big, I had one of those big snow scoops.
Yep.
And then Big Jim had 2 of those taped together with a metal bar across the 2. So I had 2 things. I had 48-inch wide snow pushing contraption that we used to clear out the laneways with. Now I got a hard time walking down the laneway, let alone clearing the snow out of it.
That might be the reason, Jim. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Nah.
Just kidding. Yeah, so absolutely, it is. But
when they're trying to put me in the box, Scotty, they better bring 4 or 5 guys because I'll be pushing up pretty hard.
Well, just make sure it's deep enough so you can't reach us either. Yes, absolutely, Dave. That's a great point. Folks that are taking the time to go out and mark off areas that are unsafe or that has a bubbler or a rock that pierces out of the ground that people can't see. I don't want to necessarily encourage folks to do this as much as it may sound difficult to hear. When you do that, and I think it's important that folks know that you now lay claim to that marking. That marking is now yours. So you have to check that all the time. You have to check it. If you put a Javex bottle out to mark a rock, you put out a tree to mark an open body of water, you have to make sure and go back and check that all the time. Because the minute you don't, and someone falls through, they're going to ask who's the last one there, who put, well, I didn't see the tree or I didn't see the Javex bottle. Or if they do fall in and it is marked, they're going to ask who put it there. So just be very cautious. I know it's our legal system, but it's just a public service.
Well, I read a thing the other day, a thread on one of the ice fishing sites that, these bubblers you put around the docks.
Yep.
Apparently, I did not know this. They're illegal.
They're illegal? That I didn't know either.
There's some fancy wording. The guy had the quote. He went and got the quote. He highlighted it in the piece and put it up.
Wow.
And I'm just saying what I read and saw,
Interesting.
Of course, everything on Facebook's true. But there was several people came on behind him and said, yeah, I know this for a fact.
Wow.
Because some of these bubblers, there's one that I know of around here. There's very few over this way. There's one that I know of over here that there's open water like 40 feet from the dock. So if you're running ashore at night on a skidoo and you're running along the edge, you could go in there,
Well, it makes sense,
You could easily go in, and that's why this guy said, and he had this, I forget the wording, I just was scrolling through it, and he had it highlighted in a paragraph that had, like section 12, sub verse 3 or something, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was highlighted about these bubblers. So it's, I'm going to ask a couple of guys that I know that maintain them for people and things like that on if they know anything about it, how it actually plays out, because it'd be interesting. Because man, there's so many things up there.
There's so many bubblers, as Jeremy just mentioned. The Lake of Bays, there's dozens of them on Lake of Bays, dozens of them on Muskoka, Lake Ontario.
Yeah.
They'd have to for some of those big yachts. You can't take those darn things out of the water. Speaking of, I don't want to be disrespectful, so I won't say this, but let's just say we lost, I would say, an avid angler, certainly a supporter of angling. As you have attested, Jim, you and I went to many sportsman shows together, and Hazel was always an invited guest. She would show up there at the breakfast, put in an appearance. She was a delight. She was a lot of fun to be around. But what do you remember about Hazel the most?
I wished I was older so I could have dated her. She was so cool, Scotty.
Sorry, I have to take this. Tammy's calling. Yes, Tammy, he did. He said that.
Settle down, competition. No, it's she was, and her and I were like this. I spent the day fishing with her on Walter Oster, who used to be the president of Sportsman Show and everything. Walter's gone now too. So was Hazel, and I spent the day with him and a couple of his other cronies out there, as he called them. That was his nickname for his friends. And yeah, it was just they were just she was just incredible. Like, she just loved life, every second of it. Nothing was a problem. But fortunately I never crossed her. Mm-hmm. I understand from what I've been told by Walter and things like that. Boy, you didn't want to mess with Hazel. That's probably where she got the nickname Hurricane.
Guaranteed. Because
she was feisty. When it came down to it, she'd get her face right in your face if she had to make her point.
So some facts I didn't know about her. She was the youngest child in her family. Mm-hmm. You could imagine right there, when the youngest always has,
gotta have the bigger claws.
100%. Right now, you're fighting with all the older kids, which might attest to the reason she played professional hockey. I didn't know that. I didn't know she was a professional hockey player.
I had heard that before.
Doesn't get any more.
Thank God she didn't play for the Leafs.
Well, again, let's keep it respectful.
She'd have roughed them all up and
easy. Well, roughed them, yes, absolutely. We'll say that 100%.
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought you might say.
Oh no, buddy, 1,000% respect for that lady.
She, but again, one of the things that maybe a lot of folks don't know, depending on what your vintage is. She was a huge advocate for fishing. At one point when she was out on that boat, and I believe, Jim, you were there with her. I know Atala was.
I wasn't there that particular day.
Okay.
It was another day that I was there.
But she challenged Rob Ford to catch a bigger fish than her. So she's done her part to get folks fishing and basically expose and illustrate the kind of fishing that's available just on the shores of Lake Ontario, because a lot of folks don't know. It's a big body of water. You drive by every day, maybe to go to work. You have no idea the fun you could have on a charter if you get out there and book it. But she's done a fantastic job. And as I said, one thing that I'll always remember her is she always remembered who you were, right? There was never a time when she came into a room and said, excuse me, who? She always knew who you were. It was unbelievable. I don't know.
She sat down beside me at one of the breakfasts that they had one morning. She just slid into the chair for a second. And she'd give me one of these as she sat down. She'd give me an elbow, and she looked around. She said, "Big Jim, how are you?" She remembered my name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when somebody like that remembers your name, it makes you feel good.
Yeah. And Jeanette, I'll be honest with you, we could stay here all night talking about Hurricane Hazel, some of the things that she's done, spearheaded. When it came to women and women's rights, she certainly didn't look at herself necessarily as a woman trying to play in a man's world. It was her world, and us men had to play in it.
She was like the planet, and we were the satellites.
100%. It was Hazel's world, and we had to find a place in it. And she let you know that right away. Very respectful woman, and that, again, I have never heard anything utter a bad thing about her. Obviously, the last couple of years of her mayorship may have been somewhat tarnished with some of the things that went on. I don't know if anything proceeded with that, but on this day, it's all about Hazel and the positivity that she brought the world.
Making it to 101, though?
Dude, think about that. That in itself is a feat. Unreal.
Like, I'd need almost 31 plus years.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I don't want to be alive for 31 more years.
No, 100%.
31 more years of this?
Yeah. And that's, what, David, don't feel as if, again, as we always say, we're here to educate, not humiliate. Who is this Hazel? Some people may not know. It's surprising to me, folks that live in Canada may not know who Hazel is.
Well, Mississauga wasn't a big entity when she started.
Maybe that's what it is. But it seemed like she didn't push herself around. She just became the highlight of every story. Mm-hmm. Like somehow, some way, Hazel had a part in it. The Argos would win the Grey Cup. Hazel would have a comment. Like, it was like, I don't know. She just seemed to be that on that level. She was.
I watched one little thing on the news about her, and they had a family spokesperson. Maybe you saw it. I'm not sure. But he said, like on a Saturday, she would do 8-9 events.
Yeah.
They drive her around, shuffle. And this was just like 20 years ago. She was 80 then.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, Sonia brings up this. Remember this? Remember when she got hit by a truck? Remember this?
No.
She got, and it was sideswiped. It wasn't like, I don't think it was super severe, but I mean, anytime you get hit by a truck.
It was her car or her?
I don't know if it was her or if it was a car, but she said the truck had to go. She said the truck had to go for.
I could see Hazel with the driver out the window at arm's length. Oh my God, I'm gonna think about her all night now.
Oh, that is
every little contact I've had with her in my life is gonna come back now. She was a little weenie thing, eh?
Well, and Sonia, yes, I was pretty sure she wasn't in any vehicle. She was walking. Wow. Isn't that incredible? Wow, unreal.
I only got hit by a car once in my life, and I rolled across the hood. I was a young lad, and I hit the windshield, and the windshield shattered. And I was laying on the windshield wondering what the hell happened, and it just fell in into the car. And I walked away from that. I was lucky. I jumped at the last second, eh?
Well, some of the things, some great stories there. That was a great link that Steve just shared. Did she greet the Leafs at Pearson upon arrival from home games? It's possible. I don't know about that, Jeanette. Well, she could have. It's quite. Yeah. Headline: Mayor Hazel won pickup.
Oh my good Lord, that's priceless.
Wow. Oh, that is priceless. That is friggin' hilarious. Wow. Yeah, she was. I'll tell you, she was an incredible woman. Just a pillar of our community. A great representative of women and men alike. Didn't matter. But I'll tell you, if there were barriers, she ripped them all apart. And we thank Hazel for doing that. And of course,
one of the things that just came to my mind was being out on Bay of Quinte one fall with Julian Fantino when he was the head of the OPP.
Yeah.
I had him out, and he had his head man with him from Aurelia. And it was so cool because we got talking about fishing, and she came up.
Isn't it incredible?
Everybody wants to say they know.
Yeah.
Because I told him about fishing with, Hazel.
Yeah.
Because he said, how many OP, like they were joking, eh? How many OPP commissioners have you fished with? And I said, well, one today, and he was joking. And because I had been up on a couple of fly-ins with him and Walter, and his brother came from Italy and everything, and they're just incredible people and whatever else. And it was so cool that he would come up with her name out of the blue when I mentioned her, and he said, "You fished with Hazel?" Like it was like, wow, you went to the top of the ladder, because he fished with Hazel.
Yes, not that I'm Big Jim or anything, but yes, I did fish with Hazel. Thanks so much.
You fished me too. Every time I got a bite, I cut the line. I didn't want to have to face her on the dock.
Manny, you know what? We'll take you up on that, dude. When you catch your next toothy critter, we will make sure that your fish post is dedicated to our beloved and unfortunately no longer with us, Hazel McCallion. So yes, rest in peace, Hazel. You've lived a longer life than a lot of us could possibly wish for. But it wasn't just the life. You just didn't take up time here on this earth. You did a lot. And I tell you, if any of us could do just a fraction of what you've accomplished in your lifetime, I would say that we would consider ourselves blessed. So
see who else we lost today? We lost Bobby Hull.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah,
no.
84 years old.
Bobby Hull. And I'm sure I'm not speaking. I'm sure I'm speaking on everybody who's seen that picture. Him working on the farm. You see that?
Oh, he was a bulldog. Yeah, back in the day.
He was baling hay. That boy was cut, and that was before steroids. That was before any growth hormone. That boy was cut, and I mean to the point where, holy smokes, Bobby, eat something. Like you're making us all look bad here. Holy crap, unreal. But
yeah, he was. I tell you one thing, you didn't want to get in front of a slap shot, and you didn't want to get in a beer drinking contest with him.
Oh, is that right?
I've been in a few with him, and I'll tell you,
you're still with us, Jim. So champion.
That boy could drink beer, like boy, oh boy, he could drink. And the stories that would come out of him, the things because of being in the NHL all those years, and I mean, the young kids today that play hockey, they don't have the good stories. The good stories come from the older guys from back in the 50s and 60s and stuff like that.
100%.
It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about fame. It was all about the game, It was like a completely different thing. But Yeah, they had him at the Ottawa Boat Show a few times. I forget what the beer company was. He worked with a beer company on the marketing. And, they had him sit at a table, and it was always close to our casting pond.
Yeah.
And they had him sit at a table and sign photos, for the
Wasn't it OV? Wasn't it?
No, it was one of the lesser brands of beer. I forget what it was.
Well, let's not say. Okay, on another note, on 100%, James, I remember watching Red Fisher introduce young rookie sensation Bobby Hall. I remember that too. I remember that episode actually. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Gotta tell you the greatest Red Fisher story ever.
Here we go. Listen up.
I'm at the Sportsman Show. I'm young. I got red hair. I'm like, I don't know, like 6'4", 235, maybe 230, 225. Before I got married, I can't even blame that on. No. And I'm standing
before I came out of the womb. Yep.
Yeah. I'm standing there at the show, and it's a crowded Saturday afternoon. This guy walks up to me, looks at me, goes, "Red, how are you?" And of course, I had the nickname Red too. And I'm standing, what's the guy doing? He shakes my hand. He says, "My God," he said, "you look so big in real life, and you look a lot younger in real life than you do." And he shook my hand, and away he went. He was gone. My buddy looks at me and goes, I'm standing in front of a little booth that they had that looked like Scuttlebutt Lodge with the rail at the front and a few pieces of wood. And it said, "Meet Red Fisher here today at 2:00. So I got mistaken for Red Fisher.
Well, listen, what's worse, you getting mistaken for Red Fisher or Dave Chong getting mistaken by Bob Azumi like all the friggin' time? True story. Dave Chong, no longer Dave Chong, Bob Azumi. Yeah.
Oh, I've watched it happen.
Yeah. Oh,
I've had people say to me, message me and say, "Was that Bob Azumi I met with you today?" And either I'd have to say yes or no. It was Dave Chong. Like well, they're both short. They're funny. They're both funny.
I will say this. I asked Dave, this was years ago, but I said, "Dave, will you ever answer the question yes?" He said, "What do you mean?" When you're asked, Bob Azumi, you Bob Azumi? Are you going to ever answer yes? He says, "Yes. When they deliver the check and it's more than I can afford, 100%, I will be Bob Azumi on that night."
I'll tell you, Bob's one of the funniest guys.
Yeah.
When you're with him in real life, and I mean, he doesn't really drink. When you're with him in real life and he starts, he's funny as crap. It's really, really neat. We've had nights where we busted our guts. Absolutely busted our guts.
Well,
Mercer's another good one for laughs.
Yeah, I've heard that.
There's nobody. Lee Branscombe, the Ontario, Quebec rep for Shimano G. Loomis and all that. There is not a person that is in the fishing industry that could come close to him.
Wow.
You spend a night with him and they get into the cocktails. In the morning when you wake up, you're holding your side, and it's not because you got in a fight and someone punched you. It's because you laugh so much when you get up in the morning, it hurts. He is hilarious.
Wow.
And of course, when you put second, third, fourth place around them, then it's just like a volcano blowing. It's like mayhem.
Dude, there's some great comments coming up here. My friend mixed up Dave with Peter and had a full conversation calling Dave Peter. So I'm assuming it's Peter Young that you meant.
You meant Peter Cito.
Or Peter Cito. That's possible. Yeah, Peter Cito. So you'll have to tell us which one is that. And JJ, has anybody ever mistakenly called Bob Azumi Dave Ching? Not even getting the name right.
Yeah, I'm going to tell Dave you said that.
Wow. JJ, yeah, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm glad it was you that said that and not me. Yes.
I remember being in a mall once up in North Bay with Bob, and we're both sick as pigs, and we're out doing this seminar thing for Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
And we're looking for a drugstore to buy cold medication because we both got coming out of our heads and everything, and we're just dying, eh? It's like 10:30 at night. We finished the seminar, and we just split. We were dying, had a head cold, couldn't talk right, everything. And we're in the mall, and all of a sudden they hear, "Oh my God, look at this." And here comes this guy running down the hallway with his hand out. Bob goes like this. He runs right past Bob to me to shake my hand. And then I look at him and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I says, "Well, me and Bob are out doing seminars." He looks around and he goes, "Ah!" Like that. He went right, he screamed like that. He ran over and he gave Bob a hug. And Bob says, "I'm really sick. You might not want to be rubbing up against me." That was Bob's term, was rubbing up against me.
That's hilarious. Holy smokes.
Oh,
Jim,
fun.
I know you've got some baits that you wanted to talk about, but we are unfortunately already at the half-hour point.
Okay. So save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week. But have you got anything upcoming that we need to take notice of or be aware of?
Well, I was going to phone you about this, and I was a little disappointed. And I don't know whether this is the place to bring it up or not. You getting scared?
No. Well, I was for a second there. Yeah.
You're starting a winter fish fest on my birthday. So I hope that doesn't take anything away from my birthday. You know what I mean? Like draw down.
Oh, I can assure you now that you've mentioned it, it certainly won't. Yes. Steve and I are working. Steve's probably working right now behind the scenes.
Feverishly to change the dates on.
Okay, we got to start on the 2nd, Mike. Sorry. Someone said something about perhaps approaching the monarchy to have united at some point and make it official that you are. Yeah, well, Jim, as I said, for all you have done for us, the industry, all the fishing communities, and especially CFN, we can't thank you enough. You show up here.
I was talking to a guy here the other morning. I went down, did one of my little coconut times, went down to Tim Hortons in a blizzard for something to do.
Yeah.
Went and sat by the river. And there was a guy jogging, and he saw the truck, and he comes over. He goes, "Big Jim, how are you?" He says, "I haven't seen you for a long time." And he laughs because he stopped, I don't know, three or 4 days ago. He looks at me, and he says to me, "I know who you are now." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "I Googled you." And I said, "Really? Without my permission?" Eh? And he's laughing and whatever else. Eh? Then he looks at me, goes to me, "Yeah." He said, "I didn't realize you used to be a basketball coach." And I just looked at him because there's a guy, Big Jim McLaughlin, in the States that coached university basketball. So somehow he figured out that me and fishing in a Shimano truck translates into being Big Jim, the basketball coach from, I don't know what university it was, but.
Well, let's just assume his name is David Ching and that somehow he is not affiliated with anything, other discussions that we've had. And yeah, wow, I don't know how you get that.
Hey, by the way, Dave's going to be at the Sportsman Show in Ottawa now with his everything you wanted to know about fishing booth.
Beautiful.
We got that put together too. So we got Muskies Canada, we got CFN. Lawrence is there with his entourage, and Lawrence's daughters volunteered to help with us at the pond on Saturday.
Cool.
We got several people have volunteered. Darren Young from Kingston is going to come down for a day. Peter Larman's going to come for a couple. We've got lots of guys doing seminars and really, really good, knowledgeable people. We got John Anderson and Lisa Goodyear coming. And I mean, these people are full-time muskie guys. This is how they pay the mortgage and put the money out there, the bread on the table. Amen. It's not that they go out three weekends a year to make some money to buy beer. This is what they do. It's really, really cool. And we got Scotty Martin and Steve Shaw, so they'll be there. That'll be good.
Well, listen, we are in the shadows of folks like yourself, Bob Azumi, and I mean that only because
there ain't any shadow, buddy.
We could only be as funny.
Only because I'm taller. That's the only thing.
All the three of you, we should bubble wrap all of you, as Jeremy mentioned, and we should. Jim, as always, dude, thanks for your time every Monday. Keep up the great work, dude, and just keep being you, man.
I'm out of here, guys. Be safe out there, right?
Love you, buddy. You take care of yourself.
You too, pal. I love all you guys. Be good.
Yep. Lawrence is right after this.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence, as always, I want to welcome you to the program. And again, I just want to emphasize that anybody that doesn't see this broadcast tonight, you can go back and look at it on Facebook because it is going to be posted on the CFN page. But please tune in to Bluefish Radio, where this is going to be appearing every week after the program to make sure that all angles are covered. And of course, all of your listeners and ours, Lawrence, get a chance to listen to some of the great knowledge that you are about to infuse us with, and hitting the ground running, as they say, jumping off that plane and getting right to her. You are talking first about commercial fishing in the Great Lakes and the possibility of those catches increasing, at least the quantity and perhaps maybe the number of anglers. Is that true?
Yeah, but before we get too far, I just want to mention, when you're looking for the podcast, the Bluefish Radio Show, look for the Bluefish Radio Show. If you look for the Bluefish Radio, you'll find my friend in Barbados and his lovely radio station there that where he's putting out sorts of wonderful music. I don't listen to it myself, but I know he's a great guy, and he reached out to me, and I said, "Oh, it's all good. It's all good. I don't think there'll be any confusion over his music and what we talk about." But yeah, the Bluefish Radio Show. It's on all your podcast providers, and if you like it, please reach out, through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and give us some ranking, give us some 5-star love, leave us a comment. We very much appreciate it. That's how the world works in the world of podcasts, man. But yeah, so getting down to business here, I've been, searching around the eastern basin of Great Lake, Ontario, and Bay of Quinte. There's some talk about setting up a marine conservation protection area there. And what would that look like? And what would that mean for fishing? So I've been talking to the people who make a living, who have fun, who enjoy fishing and fish in that part of eastern Lake Ontario. And you know what? It's coming out. You're right, Scotty. What's coming out of this? Not by everybody, but by a bunch, scientists and people who fish commercially and recreational anglers. There are a lot of fish out there. Lake Ontario is doing pretty good, and there's room for more commercial fishing. And I won't get, okay. So do you believe me? Does anyone believe me? Or
okay. So I guess right off the bat, I'll have to say, and I'm sure everybody's thinking this who's watching, who said we need more? Was it the commercial fishermen? Was it perhaps somebody other than who we're thinking of right off the bat? Like, who would have said this? Because that would have to be the first question that I would say would be the obvious one to answer.
Well, if you go to the Bluefish News, there's 3 people already that I've interviewed and talked to about this, and there's the list is growing. So just stay tuned. There's going to be more and more podcasts drop. But in the last issue of the Bluefish Canada News, you can find it on bluefishcanada.ca. You'll see an editorial I wrote on this, plus links to a bunch of podcasts that have already been released now. And the latest one was Kendall and Joanne Dewey. They're 4th generation commercial fishers. They're trained biologists. They're business people. They're, knowledgeable people that have spent a fair bit of time studying this, living this, talking about this, meeting with other people about this, really understanding the business side of things and the biological, natural side of things. And, when I asked them during our interview at their kitchen table last summer, I said, is there room for the expansion of this fishery? They both like, oh yeah, that was the most excited I saw them throughout the whole interview, was when I asked that question. And it was 4 thumbs up, between the 2 of them. No doubt about it.
Interesting. Because of course, Bill, yeah, I appreciate your skepticism. I bet a bucket was the commercial guys who, yeah, at the end of the day, I think everybody probably in a kind of sort of way are thinking the exact same thing. Like, who would have possibly said this? Because I don't know about us recreational anglers wanting more commercial fishermen. Or more commercial fishing. Yeah. At this stage, am I the only one that says, I think we're good, unless there is a food shortage, and I know there probably is in other parts of the world. But let's face it, fish that are caught from Lake Ontario, unless we're flash freezing it, isn't really going to feed the world.
It's the most valuable freshwater fishery in the world, the Great Lakes. So that's all the Great Lakes, right?
Okay, so I stand corrected. So there you go. You have all of this fish that's being exported, and I should know this because a lot of the stuff gets exported to the States. Yeah. But needless to say, I'm thinking the war on a global scale.
Yeah.
The expansion, obviously, yes, as a population, we're expanding. So is it justified or is it warranted? I guess that's the question that should be asked. Is it
Yeah.
justified?
And look, put it into context, because we had a big commercial fishery on the Great Lakes 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It went overboard. Then it declined. Then we had the lamprey invasion, which really set things back.
Yep.
Now that lamprey situation's been under control for a long time, but the commercial fishing on Lake Ontario has been dying out. Like not because of lack of fish, because the people who have the licenses are just getting old. So Joanne and Kendall are in their 70s. They have 2 boats. You know, they go out in their 2 boats when the weather is good, when they feel like it, when they need some money. It's to them, it's not, you know, it's not about a financial necessity. It's not, they're not building a business. They're just holding on because this is what they love to do. They could have retired, you know, years ago they could have retired, but they love it. They put their passion into this, and they're sad to see that people are exiting. People are just getting old. No one wants to take over, and it's just in decline. It's a enterprise in decline. So why is that? So why aren't we supporting these local fishers, these local commercial fishers, to make a living by buying some of their fish? Why isn't that being highlighted? Why isn't that being advertised? Why aren't we hearing about that? We hear about Prince Edward County, all the wineries and the microbreweries and, you know, Sandbanks Provincial Park and the antique shops and the beautiful restaurants. You go into any one of those restaurants, nowhere is the mention of fish on those menus that has to do with the local area. Nowhere.
Okay. So that is a bigger problem, because at the end of the day, we should be promoting local. I think COVID has taught us that. If anybody hasn't learned that lesson during COVID, you know, buy local, support local, shop local. We're seeing that now. The aftermath of what COVID has brought to us is warranted, in my opinion, to do exactly as you're saying, get restaurants more on board for some of the local fish. But then when we talk about the commercial aspect, and again, I don't want to be a hater of commercial fishermen or commercial angling, because it has a purpose, and it is feeding a lot of people that, you know, require it. Let's face it, you know, it's not something we can just completely disregard. But sturgeon were commercially fished out of Great Lakes at one point, so much so to a point where unfortunately they became endangered, and now they are a protected species.
Lake trout, muskellunge.
Muskellunge. Again, not to say that their numbers are decreasing, but where we are seeing a lot of commercial angling outside of the Great Lakes, keep this in mind, outside of the Great Lakes, are there any areas that are being commercially fished right now that are not in trouble?
Oh, all of it. All of it is in good health. All the commercial fishing that is licensed, that's tracked, that's monitored, all the commercial fishing is in good health. The fishery is strong, you know. So one of the places I went to was the Glenora Fishery Research Station. It's a DFO operation at the mouth of the Bay of Quinte. And they take samples every day. They track the harvest of the handful of commercial fishers that go out on the Canadian side. They know what they're catching. They get the bycatch, the lake trout that they're not allowed to sell. They examine that, the health of that. They have a pretty good idea of what's going on out there. And, you know, to them, it's going well. To them, it's going well. There's the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. I'll be going to their meetings in March and hearing what they have to say about the fishery. And there's also university, you know, researchers that are looking into this at Guelph University. Hannah Harrison has written her PhD dissertation on the commercial fishing on the Great Lakes, and she's another one. And she'll be her podcast will be coming up in line, but she's another one that says that the fishery's in decline. The lake can definitely support much more commercial fishing, that there is a large quantity of fish out there that just aren't being harvested. So, you know, we have different levels of harvesting. There's a sustainable level of harvesting where the fish naturally repopulate. Every time there's fish taken out, the repopulation by the existing fish or the remaining fish makes up for the loss every year. So it's sustainable. And then maximum sustainable yield is when you push it right to that limit. So that's the next level, where if you took one more fish, it would start to tip the balance into the point where the remaining fish would start to have a hard time replacing those fish, and it would start to spiral down. And then when you have over exploitation is when you're starting to chip away at the numbers. Every year, the numbers are going down, going down, going down. So Lake Ontario, they're in the first category: sustainable, absolutely sustainable, and less so. So there are more fish in Lake Ontario. The numbers are increasing. We don't see it necessarily with the Pacific and coho salmon, but they're not. You can't fish for Pacific and coho salmon or rainbow trout commercially on Lake Ontario anyways. These are sport fish exclusively, and though some of those numbers are decreasing because maybe hatchery, because of the alewife population is sort of leveled off, so it's balancing to the alewife population. There's a number of things going on there. More research needs to be done, but we know this is a way of life, right? This is a way of life. And so where's this heading? Where am I heading with all this? And take a guess.
To be honest with you, I would have to guess, but I will say this. One thing that I think is a great question to stop you at, Lawrence, to talk about. This was brought up by George Morgan. Are we confusing new commercial licenses with increasing quotas? So what George is saying is, are they just increasing the quotas, or are they increasing the number of licenses? Because at the end of the day, if the quota is just the same and we're not meeting that quota, and we're going to allow other anglers to, make up the difference, then that's a different story. But if we are increasing quotas and increasing the number of licensed commercial anglers, that is concerning. But anyway, get back to your question.
So quotas are not being met. They're not being met, and no new licenses are being issued. Licenses are worth a lot of money. It's hard work. These are trap fishers. These are hoop net fishers. This is not big gill nets, right? These are not seiners, large ships things, where they go out and circle a big school and scoop them up, or string out a huge length of suspended gill net across the lake. That's not what they're doing. We don't have licenses for that. We have licenses. It's very hands-on. They're going out in 20-foot aluminum boats and just throwing the nets out, putting the traps out, weirs and traps like that. It's very selective. Fish get selected right at the side of the boat. The ones they can't harvest, too big, too small, wrong species, get put back in the lake. They swim away fine. Nothing's getting killed this way. So they're not issuing new licenses for this. And the people who have the licenses, they can't sell them for what they're worth or what they think they're worth, because no one wants them. And they're just getting too old to go out fishing as much, and so they're not meeting the quota. So that's how you define decline. So the other thing I was wondering is, where's this going? So I did have a conversation with the chief of the Mohawk of Bay of Quinte, and I asked him, how many people are commercial fishing? He said, I don't know. He said 2 maybe. I said, well, how many fish do you think they're catching? And then he got mad at me. He said, well, who the hell are you working for? The MNRF? Like, who's paying for you? What are you doing here spying on us?
Typical reaction. Yeah, an understandable reaction. I would expect.
Yeah, he doesn't want, us people digging into their business, right? Yep. Where our noses don't belong. And I had to explain again, no, I'm just here, just curious, just wondering. And then it took about an hour, but, and I've known Chief Miracle for over 30 years, but it took him a while to trust me a bit.
Is this Wayne? You talked to Wayne Miracle?
No, Donald Miracle.
Donald, I'm assuming a brother or a relative.
Maybe. I don't know.
Wayne's who I've spoken to in the past. I love Wayne. Anyway, that's a story.
Okay. Yeah. So he said there's no tracking. They have the right to fish commercially. There's no one's tracking it right now. No one's, it's just not big on their radar at this point, and he doesn't, I don't think he thinks it ever will be. It's just not something his people are putting their attention to, but I think that might change, right? If you look at Lake Nipissing and, other parts of the St. Lawrence River where Mohawks have their communities and where they had very active commercial fisheries, it's not like they haven't done it in the past. I mean, they are people of the water, and this fishing was their thing, right? That's their thing. Not hunting, is fishing. For the most part, that's where they got most of their food. So it may pick up again. And I'm just putting that out there don't be surprised, and don't blame me for putting a bug in his butt, giving him the idea either.
Well, it's a question that I had. I'm glad you sort of touched on it, because a bit of a segue into, like, I mean, have we approached? I mean, at the end of the day, I understand that there's a conflict or controversy when it comes to us and First Nations and who fishes what, who's entitled to what, and all that. And I don't want to get into that debate. But at the end of the day, if there's a gap and we want to fill it, do we approach First Nation folks possibly to fill that gap?
Well, you know what? Wouldn't it be an amazing tourist attraction if there was some commercial fishers out there, First Nations commercial fishers saying, "Hey, look, we've caught this fish. You can buy it direct. You can buy it at the restaurants. This is sustainable, wild caught food, certified sustainable. You're putting some money in the pockets of some First Nations people that sorely need it, that wouldn't be such a bad thing, right? In the absence of, this is, like I said, this is a fishery in decline. So who's stepping up?
Yeah.
Who's stepping up? I did talk to another individual, a Syrian refugee, came here to Canada 10 years ago. He bought a processing business, and he's processing fish that are being caught by the private commercial fishers. He can't process it. He processes every fish he can get. He begs for fish. He can sell it all. He goes into the grocery stores in Picton, the big grocery stores. He makes his own signs saying fresh walleye, fresh local walleye. He has to make his own signs and put them up there where his fish are being displayed for sale. And that's the only way he can get anyone to pay attention to his fish. And, privately, there's people interested in buying it. All he can get, he can sell the next day. And he said, look, his dream is he wants to get a fishing license if he could only afford one. Then he can catch it, clean it, sell it, the whole 9 yards, and make some good money at it. But right now he has to pay people, then do all the work, and then make the in-between guy and the guy money. But,
well, that's the problem, is because there's too many hands, right? Too many hands that unfortunately all have to get paid. They all have to get their level of greasing or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it is a very lucrative industry. It is one that we could talk about all friggin' night. But I will say this, and Bill, I when you mentioned a few of the sport fish, as a prairie boy, and I live here in Ontario, so I myself don't necessarily know exactly what fish they would be targeting. Can you tell us, Lawrence?
Yeah, there's some catfish. There's white perch, yellow pickerel, what they insist on calling yellow pickerel, which we call walleye. No bass, no salmon, no rainbow trout, pike, no muskie, no sturgeon, and a few other fish that we drum are on the list. Carp are on the list. So a lot of fish we don't even think about. Most of the fish that we don't think about, other than sort of yellow perch and walleye, and the walleye population is growing. So yeah, so there's some good interest. One of the problem is, it's all tested by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency for chemicals, and just like we have fish consumption advisories. This is done by the federal government in this case instead of the provincial government. They test, and the rules are in terms of what can be sold. It has to have a certain low levels of these things. So there is safety being taken into consideration for sure. But there's a lot of interesting fish being caught.
Wow, interesting stuff. I know, again, we could talk about this. Some great comments. Corey, I like your idea about not devaluing our fish if they are so sought after. I hate when they're sold on the world market because it's not a true testament to the value of these fish. I think we should be running. I get tired of us giving out our resources like we do, and then buying them back at ridiculous rates. Like, as you said, this gentleman could sell anything that's caught, that's put before him. I guarantee you they could, because it's at a world market. Like, and to me, some of these folks aren't necessarily making a lot of money because the price is at a point where all the other folks down the line have to make money, first. But anyway,
so they can sell a perch for $3.50, just a perch, not cleaned or anything.
Does that make sense when it's $22 a pound?
Yeah, and a walleye, $28 to $30 a pound.
And what can he sell it for? $5?
Yeah, that's what he can sell it for. So,
Unreal.
this stuff is as good as, as tuna or swordfish. It's not just food. It's considered a delicacy. It's considered, sort of what you'd have on a special occasion, right? So
Mhm.
they're getting good top dollar for it. It's just the food. Most of it now that's being caught in Eastern Ontario and Bay of Quinte. It's being picked up by a big truck, taken to a processing center on Lake Erie, processed there, and then shipped out of the country. So you're absolutely right. No local benefit whatsoever. None of they cannot, there's no one trying to fit this into the local tourism,
Right.
come here, eat local, eat wild local, and really support that community where the fish belong, where the fish come from. That's a crime.
Yeah, that is, and
Yeah.
again, this is a topic that's going to evolve. It's going to grow, and we will probably be discussing it in Mondays to come. But I don't want to take up your entire segment.
All right, let's get to some other news.
Let's get to some. Yeah,
Sounds good, buddy. All right. Yeah. So commercial fishing deaths in Canada, stay on the same line of commercial fishing.
not a great segue, I will say.
I know. So, did you know it's the most dangerous profession in Canada, right? There's no other profession in Canada that'll kill you more likely than commercial fishing. So from 2018 to 2020, 45 Canadians died fishing commercially. And that's up.
Really?
Yeah.
And I would imagine most of it is either on the East Coast and West Coast, I'm assuming.
Boats sink, people disappear.
Because you don't hear too many lost lives in the Great Lakes when it comes to commercial fishing.
No, because there isn't any commercial fishing, right?
Well,
There's
that's
almost none.
Lake Erie, I'd say, would be the only one that comes to mind. And of course, there is some commercial fishing up in Superior, but you don't hear much of it. So I would assume it's on coastal waters. But that's a staggering number.
Yeah, it's a large number, and we don't see these people as our heroes, right? I mean, these people are dying for the.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a commercial angler, like, you have a huge target on your back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might as well be just like a CEO, like the last person you want to see when you're out fishing, when you're out enjoying a day on the water. Last thing you want to see is a big boat that has this massive net. Or a CO, at the end of the day, let's call a spade a spade. They're not a desirable part of our community, but to me, they have a lot of value. And, I don't think you should meddle with anybody's livelihood. That has been a firm belief of mine from the time I came out of the womb.
And these are livelihoods of multiple generations of people, right?
Yeah.
Small communities, small coastal communities across Canada that have been doing it for generations, generations.
Agreed.
Just like these Yukoners, right? That depend on the Chinook salmon that come up the Yukon River. That's kind of coming to an end. That whole, we hear about society, the social aspect of fishing, and the community, and the celebration, and the food. They're just not getting the salmon up into the Yukon River. I mean, once it enters Yukon, and that's about 1,000 kilometers of river right there. That's not even in our country. But once it gets to Canada, there's very little left, and not even enough to catch. So it's been no catch for the last number of years, and it's a way of life. It's a way of life that's dying. And how do you bring that back, right? And it's like what's happening in Lake Ontario. It's happening in different spots around Canada. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't just reinvent that from scratch and say to a kid, a young person, hey, why don't you get into commercial fishing? They look around and go, "What the hell's doing that? No one's doing that." You have to start that from scratch. That takes a huge amount of entrepreneurship to do something that no one else is doing.
It's true. And again, it brings us back to the first thing about commercial fishing. At the end of the day, you think we'd learn, right? You think we'd learn from our mistakes. Lake Erie was considered a dead lake. Why? Because of pollution.
Yeah, in 1980s, it was.
What are we still doing to this day? What are we still doing to our Great Lakes and most of the waterways around the world still to this day?
I got some news coming up on that, Scotty.
There's your segue, my friend.
All right. So before I get that one, so okay, East Coast, the cod fishery, the Americans think they have a recipe to bring the cod back on the East Coast of the United States. And those are the same fish that we catch in Canada, right? Pretty much, they move
I
around a
didn't
little bit.
point out the obvious, but yeah.
So it finally someone's talking about rebuilding that cod stock and not just sort of stepping back, but actually doing something active to bring it back. That again, a whole way of life, right? So that's good news. Okay, here's the bad news. There's a new study that just came out of the United States that says eating one fish caught in the wild in the United States is like drinking water directly out of a river for a month in terms of the things all the nasty things that you're going to ingest.
So great. Sorry, not to cut you off. That's a great point. I was hoping you didn't see that article, because here we are talking about commercial fishing in the Great Lakes, and now we discussed this. Is it possible, now that we are holding these fish from the Great Lakes in such regard, that we're going to start cleaning up the lakes? We're going to start taking care of the friggin' water people?
We are. And, DDT, it's gone, right? PCB, it's very low. Mercury on the decline. So we have had some tremendous successes. We're cleaning up areas of concern. I think there's about 35 areas of concern, that like hot spots of chemicals on the Great Lakes, where, they've been identified. They're being addressed one by one, not one by one, but, not linear, but they're being addressed, right? You have one here, one there. It's happening. We're cleaning up the lake. The water's getting better. But what we're talking about here are PFAS chemicals. These are the new forever chemicals. This is the new DDT, PCB, mercury. This is the stuff that doesn't break down. And this is the shit we're using. We talked about this stuff, right? Everything from fire suppression foam by firefighters. And I was talking to a firefighter on Saturday from the U.S. Coast Guard, and he was talking to me about all, big ship fires on the Great Lakes. And I said, okay, so what do you do about the foam and the PFAS in your foam? He said, yeah. He said, good question. He said, right now, if we only use it if we have absolutely need to use it. And when we use it, we don't put it in the lake. It goes into the ship. We pump it back out of the ship when the fire is out, and we put it in containers and we take it away, because we realize this is toxic. When this stuff is causing all sorts of neurological disorders, cancer, you name it, the health problems with PFAS chemicals. And it's growing more and more in the Great Lakes. Like Michigan, walleye in certain parts of Lake Michigan, you're not allowed to eat them. Even up on Superior, smelt at the west end of Superior, you can't eat the smelt anymore because of PFAS chemicals. And they said, out of all the study by these scientists, they did 500 samples. They said the worst ones, the ones with the most highest amounts of PFAS chemicals, is in the Great Lakes.
Okay, so we had a group chat, legacy chat, and I think it was Steve Shaw that shared the article based on what you're talking about. And I said it will be a dark day, a sad reality. I'm hoping I'm dead by then. When the phrase "catch and release" is taken to a new extreme. Practice catch and release. It will save both your lives. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that is a slippery slope that we're going down.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck we're going to do to try and change this. Again, folks, I see all your comments coming up here, and I really appreciate all of them. At the end of the day, the emphasis has to now be on not just protecting the fish, but protecting the water. And if we are going to even enter the thought of increasing our commercial catch, we have to decrease the amount of contaminants we're finding in our Great Lakes and the waters that flow into them.
Yeah, we need, Ontario is measuring for PFAS for the fish consumption advisories. We do it a lot more than they do in the States, believe it or not. We are leading in that area. And, but it's not enough just to identify and say, okay, don't eat that if you're of a certain age, or if you're a woman, or if you're a child, or if you're breastfeeding, blah, blah, blah. We shouldn't have to depend on fish consumption advisories. They shouldn't be necessary. So this is another one we can beat. We beat mercury, we beat PCBs, we beat DDT, but we need to sort of get on board with pushing for this, right? So I'll be at those Great Lakes Fishery Commission meetings in Hamilton and Sault Ste. Marie this March, and I'll be presenting this from our Fish Health Network that I chair for the Great Lakes. And, say, come on, you guys, get on board with this. Stop pretending this isn't happening because you're worried about how it might impact the commercial fishing sales. Because I think, to call me maybe a conspiracy theorist here, but maybe, they're not saying a whole lot because they don't want the door being slammed on our lucrative exports of fish out of the country. People, our customers overseas in the United States start to think, well, man, I'm not going to eat that stuff. That's nasty. That's nasty. Right. So, anyways, maybe it's time to shine some light here and start calling a spade and say, look, if we don't do something, if we don't start recognize the problem, first of all, and do something about it, it's just going to get worse. And who's going to pay the price? All of us who live around the lake, who care about the fish.
Yep, 100%. And again, some great comments that I'm seeing come up here, Lawrence. We got time for one more, and then we'll be going to our good buddy Jay Barnucz.
Okay, so some messages for anglers, ice fishing anglers, 3 tips. And this is coming from the East Kootenay ice fishing anglers in British Columbia. And guess what these tips have to do with? It's interesting. I thought I'd include this and close with this. But if you were going to give tips to ice anglers, what do you think these 3 tips have to do with?
I would imagine safety.
No.
Really?
It's about invasive species.
Invasive
species. Yeah, they're saying ice anglers can be real carriers of invasive species with our augers, with our spuds, with our tackle, with our minnow buckets. We're moving around, right? This whole run and gun kind of thing, and we're so mobile now. We can hit 2 different lakes in the same day. So we have to be super careful that when we're fishing in one water body, that we're not bringing with it, minnows, little seeds, little eggs, things like that, in our tackle and our equipment. When we're fishing in shallow water, we're getting little bits of weed on some of our auger bits and things like that we're not bringing it with us to the next body of water or even to the other end of the lake. Even we could be moving, weeds from one end of the lake to the other end of the lake, invasive weeds. We can be moving, invasive fish eggs from one lake to another lake. So yeah, check your equipment, make sure everything's clean before you move on. It's super important.
Makes sense. And of course, with summer coming up, knock on wood, we get the winter first, but with summer coming up, of course, the new laws are taking effect that you have to clean up your trailer. You got to, pull the plugs on your bilge and on your live wells and all that. For that same reason. So it's good practice to get started in the wintertime. Obviously, a little bit different in terms of the circumstances. In a lot of cases, even if you are moving from lake to lake, a lot of the stuff that you are pulling out of the lake is going to freeze. I get that. But at the end of the day, it is a great message to hammer home, because if you do own a boat, kayak, or any other water vessel, there is the potential for you to transfer invasive species. So good practice, good concept, good tip.
Right on, man.
Lawrence, as always, my friend, thanks so much for joining us. Again, if you want to hear this, you can go back to our CFN Facebook page. It's posted each and every week after we're done. But also, you can go to Bluefish Canada Radio and make sure that you tune in to the podcast there as well.
Bluefishradio.com is a website, or just look it up on your speaker. Just say, hey, A-lady, or hey, Google. I don't want to say the name because my thing will start talking here, but play the Bluefish Radio Show.
Right on, buddy. Well, Lawrence, thanks so much for your time, my friend, and I appreciate this. As again, all of your topics are going to be evolving. We're looking forward to hearing updates as the year goes on. But I love what you bring to the show. Really appreciate it, dude. Thanks for the opportunity, man, and thanks for all the comments, you guys. Keep them coming. Right on, and we got Jay Barnucz coming up right after this word from his sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world. What's up, Jay Barnucz?
Hey, Scotty.
I have to say, the conversation that we just had with Lawrence in regards to commercial fishing in the Great Lakes, I understand it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's done on a very small scale. The increase in it is troubling as a recreational angler, but I think it's concerning to me that we are looking and we beat our chest about the Great Lakes fishery and how valuable it is, yet there's some fish that we can't eat. There's concerns and there's restrictions and suggestions that we don't eat fish. At the end of the day, are we sending mixed messages when we talk about this stuff, or do you think we just need to focus on something that's positive in all this?
Well, I think the positive is in all this is, let's get out and go fishing. And a lot of it's about moderation, Scotty. We've talked about this before, right? So, we can't avoid some of these things. Like there's naturally occurring chemicals in the environment that we can't deal with. And there's been a lot of other things mentioned tonight. And I think that moderation is key. And I think that if you selectively harvest the fish you're after, okay, don't keep the largest ones, not just from a health standpoint, but also from a fish reproductive standpoint, right? We've talked about that. And, but the message here is, as CFNers, is we need to go fishing. It's important for our own health up here, not just down there. Does that make sense?
100%. Right? Well said. Very eloquent. And George is making it even easier. Just go to Cooch. Just go to Cooch.
Now, George, are your ears burning? Because I talked to some of your colleagues on Sunday on Lake Simcoe, George, and I asked Christy, who was doing the Creel survey north of Keswick, and I said, "Can you add a footnote to my survey form for George to let him know that I was fishing Lake Simcoe and I wasn't anywhere near his beloved Lake Nipissing?" She said gladly. Actually, we had a great time fishing on where we went off of Cooks Bay on Saturday. Trevor and I with our good friend Brett Funston. He's a pro staffer with Pure Fishing, and had a good day. Caught a bunch of perch, caught a bunch of Cisco, Lake Herring, and even caught my first whitefish of the season.
Wow. A
small one, which was cool. So we were catching these Ciscos that were like around 9 to 12 inches long. And I entered a few in our office or our regional wide fish derby we do every winter. And I'm tired of getting my ass kicked by everyone who's out of our Winnipeg office right now. I'm tired of all their beautiful ice fishing pictures. And so we're taking pictures of these Ciscos. And there I am, like, if anyone's trying to hold down a Cisco on a measuring board, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not the easiest thing to do. So I'm in the hut, and I got the board on my knees, and I'm in a chair, and I'm trying to hold this thing down. And I catch this fish. I take a picture, and I look at it. I'm like, that mouth looks a little odd to me. So we caught this really nice little, like 12-inch lake whitefish out of Lake Simcoe on Saturday. It was pretty cool. So,
interesting. And again, it was going to lead me to the segue of, if folks are fishing Lake Simcoe or any other Great Lake for that matter, is there I would say an aspect of each fish, whether it be Cisco or whitefish, that glares at you as the obvious difference between the two?
I think to the average angler, it is hard to tell them apart.
That's why
I think I said this. I actually truthfully, I saw these pictures on my phone. Now I have my hand in the middle of the fish. We've all seen those fishing contest style photos, right? So I have my hand positioned so you can see the mouth, you can see the tail. And my hand is pretty big, so I'm blocking most of this fish. But I did a side-by-side in a little app I have on my phone, and I sent it to some colleagues, and I said, is this my new fish ID slide for teaching fish ID? And I sent it to some fellow biologists who are quite good at fish ID. And even they were like, oh, that one has a little bit different mouth. I'm like, exactly. It's a lake whitefish. It's not a Cisco. But the mouths on them are very similar. It's very, very neat to see. And I didn't expect to see that. I based on the size alone, I thought, oh, that must be a lake herring, which is Coregonus artidae. And I'm like, oh. And then I took a second look. I'm like, Trevor, look at this. It's a lake whitefish. And even he goes, yeah, it's different. We looked at the mouth; it was quite different. So, but to tell them apart for the average angler, based on that size, it's not easy to do. No. I'm going to be honest with you; it's not easy to do.
And I think it presents us an interesting idea going forward that perhaps maybe we should look at some of the species that are misunderstood, misidentified, and some of the endearing aspects of that fish that we should be looking at, so that the average angler like myself can say without any concern or hesitation, that's a such and such fish. Because, I mean, let's face it, we obviously different parts of Canada, people catch different species of fish. Perhaps maybe they're subspecies, they're hybrids. Who knows? But definitely things to talk about going forward, and it'll certainly bring a lot of great interaction with the group.
Yeah, we had a good day fishing. Like we brought home another 20. We had 28 fish we harvested, brought them home, cleaned them up. Nothing was over 12 inches. Lots in that 9.5 to 10.5 inch range, which is great. Like that's fine for me. So I got a little bit of a stockpile happening here at home after the last 2 trips, and we got a creel survey on our way off the ice, which was great, and we got visited by a conservation officer during the day at our shelter. Checked my license and checked my catch, and asked what I was using for bait, and I don't think he's ever seen maggots before. I think he was kind of grossed out by his. I couldn't quite see his reaction. All I saw was his eyes because he had his helmet on. But you're using maggots? I'm like, yeah, come on in. So I had my little jar of maggots and I showed it to him. So yeah, it was a good day. I like getting stopped. I hear people complain about it, but I think it's wonderful when I see them out working like that. And I was a little surprised that they were out on the ice. The area that I was the exact same area I fished with Enzo from Lake Simcoe Power Box the weekend before, Trevor and I. And because of the snow we had, the ice wasn't thinner, but it didn't really thicken up as much. It was still about 7 inches, maybe 8 inches. So I was a little surprised to see them out, but I'm happy they were out patrolling. So,
well, so was George. George is overjoyed.
Absolutely.
So he said the tracking unit that he's obviously put on your hut or whatever it is that you're carrying around works.
Well, it's interesting with when you bring up George's name, everyone rolls their eyes when they're wearing M&R badge. It's weird that happens, but I'm just kidding. It was honestly great to see them out working, and it was good to get on the ice. We didn't move around a lot on Saturday. The winds were pretty bad. We had to anchor the hut down at one point. Even driving up pre-show, we were talking about that snow that came in Saturday night through Sunday, and I'm glad we didn't get hit by that. Definitely makes for a longer drive getting home. Yeah. But even driving up in the morning from, where I live, the country roads, driving, dude, it's 4:00 in the morning and you're basically driving over black ice to go ice fishing. You're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But once you get there, you forget about all those things. So.
Did you happen to mention, George is asking, did you mention in your creel sample that you, or your interview from the creel sample, did you get contacted by a CEO?
I did, George. I did answer all the questions. In fact, the way we did this was my buddy Brett brought his ATV. So Brett took Trevor in first on the ATV, and our 2 huts daisy chained together. And I just waited. I just started walking in. We weren't out very far, maybe about 3/4 of a kilometer. And then Brett came to get me. And when we came in, she was interviewing Trevor for the creel survey. And he's like, Dad, do I have a fishing license? I'm like, no, Trevor, you're exempt from I did joke that he has the all you can eat license. And he looked at me kind of, what? And I said, no, he's not 18 yet. He's only 15, but he is like 5'10" now. So I guess it looks like maybe he should have a license, but he doesn't. Long story short, we answered all her questions, and she didn't know where Delhi was. I just gave her my postal code. So I'm glad. And it was great. And actually, in a previous show, George mentioned they were asking questions about like electronics that we were using and things like that. So some of those questions came up. So it was great. I was happy to share my information. I was thinking about this too, George, since you're listening. It would be really cool to have some sort of angler diary program. I know we have the Angling Atlas, the My Catch app that does that, but it'd be really cool to have an online angling diary where we could enter our data into. I know that's another layer of work, but because a lot of us don't get stopped, but a lot of us would gladly share that information. So
great point. Great point.
Yeah.
Man asked at the beginning, I saved it for you. Was wondering if you guys have any links to where you can rent a hut for ice fishing. Now, Manny's in the Toronto area. St. Catharines, I believe, is actually where he lives. But if you know of, like, is there a resource that you can go to where they've got a whole bunch of ice hut rentals? I mean, Lake Simcoe right now, you go through a whole gamut of them, but I'm just wondering if there's a place that you can possibly.
Yeah, you know what? I'm trying to think now. I know if you go to, so Manny, if you go to the Lake Simcoe message board, and there's also a Lake Simcoe message board Facebook page, they have links to all the different ice hut operators. And you know, what's great is if anyone's followed some of those pages, like they even list or will show ice thickness updates. And so what they do is around Lake Simcoe is all the operators share information collectively to say, Port Bolster, we have 8 inches, and Lefroy, we have 7 inches. And they do that collectively, and it helps everybody out, you know? So yeah, I think, you know what, Scotty, maybe what I'll do is there are a couple of links out there that list a lot of the operators for Southern Ontario, not just Lake Simcoe, but Lake Couchiching and, you know, Southern Georgian Bay, like Slaunch Donkeys Group. Maybe we could start sharing that on the CFN page now that we know the operators are out working.
Yeah.
And I think, because I even saw photos from the weekend, like I think Tim Hales has their huts out off Beaverton.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, as that ice is forming, we're seeing those hut operators get their show started, right? So which is great to see. I would say up until not this past weekend, the weekend before, it was pretty much confined to Cooks Bay, but now you're seeing some of the main lake outfitters getting more and more. Yeah, Jen Harlow's great example, Dave as well. So, you know, and you know, I even encourage CFNers in the fish off page, just share if you've been out with a hut operator and you had a good time and you want to give them a good review, share that information to the rest of the CFN community, because this is the time where we are starting to see good ice conditions. I don't see, like, some of the main lake parts of Lake Simcoe have a long way to go yet, but there are operators out that are operating safely. So if you want to get out, this is the time. Start taking advantage of it.
And with the upcoming colder weather, it's only going to get better from here on.
Yeah.
But great question, Manny. Thanks for that, Jay, and everybody else who offered up a great suggestion. Now, when it comes to Manny, and I'm sure he's not going to be offended by me bringing it up, he has a special needs wife, and fortunately, she is in a wheelchair. With that in mind, do you know of any hut operators? Now, I know Tyler up at Slaunch Donkey, his setup is probably the easiest ice fishing I've ever experienced, in the sense that you're right there at the road. You drive out to your hut, they drop you off, and anyway, it's straightforward, very, very simple. But needless to say, when it comes to handicapped ice operators, I'm not sure if I know.
I don't know of any offhand, but you know, and I'm not going to play any favorites here. There's some great operators out there. My experience taking out over the years, you know, taking out like senior citizens, like, you know, that have some mobility issues. I've enjoyed some of the outfitters that have the, you know, the more enclosed, like the Bombardier setups, you know, like over at Tim Hales and those guys over there. But the best thing to do is the operators they're very good at answering your questions. So give them a call. Yeah. You know, there's Jen right there. So give her a call, tell her what you're looking for and what you need, and they'll be happy to accommodate. Don't think that it's a burden. they're happy for the business, and they're definitely going to help you out for sure.
100%. Jen, thanks for all that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, what Jay and I are going to be doing in segments upcoming on Mondays is something that we're going to talk about now, because I know you want to bring this up. Events, derbies, ice fishing tournaments, month-long winter fish fests, whatever.
So
event.
let's drop a couple in that are happening right now, and we'll do some updates. So there's one happening right now called the Wicked Walleye Tournament. And I know 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about this one, and this was supposed to happen in January. It got moved up. We were a little concerned about it just because of the ice conditions. It's happening. And so Ben and the gang over at tackledepot.ca, which is also High Falls Outfitters, they're out of Belleville. They're running an event this Saturday on Big Bay. So to get there, you're going to go through Belleville. And if you go to the website, I click, there's location information. And they're actually running a live release walleye tournament on the Bay of Quinte. And what they've done is they've broken up the south side of Big Bay. So Scotty, Big Island, right down in Prince Edward County. They have 3 zones. And whatever zone you're in, you can go and fish that area. When you catch a fish, they've actually set it up, and they've explained how to create your own live well. This is actually really ingenious. I haven't seen this before, and I like it. As much as I think that measuring a fish on a measuring board is sufficient, what they're doing is, and they have some great how-to videos if you follow Tackle Depot's Facebook page, and making your own live well. And we've seen this before on YouTube and on TikTok and stuff, where you take your auger and you drill several holes in a line, but you don't drill through the ice. You just make a trough out of your holes. And then your last hole, you drill all the way through. And now you have basically a little trough full of oxygenated water, right? You put your walleye in your trough that you catch, and then what you do is you contact the organizers. They're going to come to you and measure your fish. And they're using, what's that app called? The 3 words. Scotty, you've heard about this app?
Yes.
So it's called 3 words, I think. And it's an app where anywhere in the world, EMS has been using this for a while. So anywhere in the world, if you share the 3 words where you are, so the whole world is broken up into grids. And the grids are small, like I think 10 meters by 10 meters. And if you say, I'm at, my grid is, I don't know, Blue Dog's house.
Yeah.
Whatever. They punch that into their phone. Oh, yeah. So Jay and Trevor, they're over here. And they'll drive their ATV or their skidoo right to your shelter. They'll come in and measure your fish. And what's cool about this setup, it's an hourly weigh-in format. So there's prizes every hour. They're doing a cookout on the ice for everybody. It just sounds like a ton of fun. I wish it wasn't 4 hours away from me. Otherwise, I'd probably go. It sounds like a great time. So I really, oh, there we go. Thank you, Steve, for sharing that. And by the way, now that this is up here, if you are ever concerned about being on the ice and being, lost, and you want to find your way back, we're on these big open lakes. The wind kicks up. I don't know where I am. Download the What 3 Words app to your phone. And if you send the 3 words where you are to EMS, they can find you. It is a great tool to use for your own personal safety. It's a fantastic tool.
Would this app supersede 911, or would this take a lot of the onus off 911 calls?
So you would call 911, but they're going to ask, where are you?
Gotcha.
You can't say, oh, I'm off the south end of Thora Island. Well, geez, there's still 300 acres of ice out there, right? You want to get them to that where you are. So you would tell EMS, these are the 3 words where I am. And that app will tell you where you are. And you just tell them those words or text those words to the EMS, and they will get out to you. It's being used globally right now. So I highly suggest if you have it on your phone, just in case you might need it. So,
well, Sonia, you're thinking like I am. That'd be a great way to order a pizza. And David, skip the dishes and Uber Eats for lunch delivery.
That's right.
Listen, anything's possible. If you were watching the basketball game this past week, an Uber, I think it was either Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats driver walked on to the floor during a basketball game, walked by the referee as the game was going on to hand whoever it was in the front row their food. So I'm under the assumption Uber Eats drivers go anywhere and everywhere.
Hey, you know, one of our traditions we do around here is there's a small it's a private body of water that I go to in the winter a couple of times a year, and I usually take the girls there. The fishing's quite good, and there's a chip truck just down the road, and I've actually had them deliver like poutine to the edge of the ice and picked it up for the girls. It's happened. So
wow. Well, listen, if we can keep this within, the finer tastes of family viewing, good, honest family viewing, what is the weirdest thing that anybody has ordered to an ice hut?
Weirdest thing. Oh,
weirdest thing.
I have it. You and I we need to go to Minnesota, Scotty. We need to go to Minnesota badly. At Lake Alda, Minnesota, for 20 days every year, they open up a bar on the ice. Okay. And I actually found this on YouTube the other day, dude, and I thought about you. Where do I have the video? It's called the Hillbillies Ice Hole Bar. Okay. And what they do is for 20 days.
No one's safe on this show, eh?
I encourage everyone to check out this video. What they do at this bar, you can ice fish in the bar. Okay, there's holes in the floor. Okay, and it's a bar. There's like, moose antlers on the wall, and it is just awesome. And they build this out on the lake. Once the lake hits 16 inches, they set it up. What you can get in the bar, of course, you can get some fries. Get some draft beer. They're known for, though, minnow shots, Scotty.
Minnow.
So I'm going to order a shot tequila, and they got a bucket of emerald shiners, fresh emerald shiners behind the bar, and that you can drop an emerald shiner in your tequila shot and do a minnow shot. So I want to do a minnow shot in Minnesota. I really, really do.
Well, I just hope that your first minnow shot is not without me. That's all I could say. That is it just became a bucket list for both.
Listen, I have kissed a cod. I've actually kissed a real cod. I've kissed a puffin butt. I have done lots of things in bars to celebrate fishing and winter time, but never done a minnow shot. So I really want to go to the place that promotes minnow shots, which is Hillbillies Ice Hole. And we can sit in our bar stool, Scotty, and fish while we're enjoying our minnow shots. Can you believe that?
I honestly can't, but I will say this, the Americans, I have to hand it to them. When it comes to sporting events and everything, they know how to throw a party. Not to say we're terrible here on our side. It's just when you go to a frat party here in Canada and then go to one down in the States, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, Scotty, I got to share this picture then. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to share.
I'm ready, dude.
Okay, here we are. This young man, I'm going to make sure I got his name right. This is Zach, 13 years old. This weekend was the Brainerd JC's ice fishing tournament. 12,000 anglers from 20 plus countries came. This young man caught the biggest walleye in 30 feet of water on a tungsten jig on 2-pound test. He won himself a brand new full-size pickup truck at 13 years old with a 9-pound walleye. The second biggest walleye was 5 and change. So he trumped everyone by 4 pounds, this young man. So congratulations to Zach. What a fantastic fish that he's got.
Now, you know what? And I hope that he was able to take those prizes home, because I know some events say that you have to have a valid driver's license in order to accept the prize. Please tell me they let him take it home.
Well, and they did actually. So the reporters, the stories that I read, a couple different stories, and basically, it's his truck. It's his. He can do what he wants with it. Like, it's up to his parents or his guardians, whatever. So Zach won a pickup truck this weekend. Now, the second part of this story is check out the dude behind Zach. Like,
well, I was just saying that. I was just
doesn't Jim need a hat like that? Like, doesn't Jim need to wear that?
Please can't tell me he took home the commemorative wildebeest in the back there. Holy God. I couldn't get my eyes off it. I'm like, that is a beautiful fish. What
isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Oh man. So hey, like congrats to Zach. That was great. So, but yeah, and there were so many great anglers. And I'm going to show. I'm going to see if I can find another picture here that I can share with you guys. I actually had a.
Corey says they put a bar on a frozen lake in Minnesota and Wisconsin. This is true facts. So apparently,
well, now we got to do a pub crawl. Now we're just getting now it's just getting even better and better, right? So, okay, so I'm going to show you another picture here, and this isn't quite the same. Where is it now? Here we go. Come on. Okay, we're going to do it here. All right. I don't want to get into bad news, but this quantifies the winter we're having, Scotty. You and I have been talking about this, okay? This is what's happening in the Great Lakes right now, the Great Lakes area. So right now, this is since 1973, we have probably the 4th or 5th warmest winter on record based on ice cover. At this point last year, we were around 25 or 30% ice cover for the entire Great Lakes. We're not even close to that. And even Lake Erie is at 0.4%. At one point, we actually had 10% of ice on Lake Erie. Now we're down to 0.4. So I don't want to be, a total bah humbug here, but we're not out of the woods yet. We're not even into February. We got time. I know all my local friends, dude, my phone is off the hook right now. People trying to tell me, like, where can I go ice fishing, Jay? And I don't want to drive to Lake Simcoe. So, and nothing against Lake Simcoe or Lake Couchiching or Lake Nipissing, George. But I do know that no one wants to drive. Even I said to Heather on the weekend, I can't wait to not have to get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. No
6 a.m. is nice. 6 a.m. is nice, right? It's not even light out till 7:30 for crying out loud. So,
Jay, like as I said, spent a full day out on the hard water this past weekend. Dude, I can't get over how fast time flies.
Yeah.
Like literally got out there for, I think it was like 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. I'm not 100% sure, but whatever time it was, but it was early. Maybe not 4:30 early, mind you, but it was around 7:30, just after the sun came up. Yeah. And before you knew it, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Unreal where the time goes.
It just flies by, and God, and Bill, thanks for that. I wish you would send your ice. Like as much as I love ice fishing, I get tired of walking with a 2x4 across my ass. Like, I don't want to say that, but like I just want to be able to walk out and not have to worry about, like, what am I going to do this week? So even this week with all the cold weather we have coming, I've actually done calculations, and actually Gord Pizer did a good article about this a while ago about how many freezing degree days it takes to generate an inch of ice. It's like a math question from like grade 8. Okay. I've done my calculations, and this is the week. If we can get 5 or 6 inches of ice this week on the local, I don't think Long Point Bay is going to get much ice this year. I saw open water pictures on Friday at Long Point Bay, which is disappointing. But I just hope, and I don't even mean for my own selfish, I want to catch fish person here. I just want to see my friends get out ice fishing. I want to be on the ice with my friends and socialize and hang out. And hopefully that comes this week. That's what I'm hoping for. I do feel bad for the fish. So please, people, practice selective harvest, or don't harvest at all. Just go enjoy the ice fishing. And those poor fish on those small lakes around here are just going to be pummeled once we get some safe ice. But
it's a great point you make, Jay, and sometimes we take it for granted when we hold these fish out. You're not on a hut or any kind of isolated enclosure. Those fish are dealing with the elements, and they don't have gloves on. They don't have snowsuit, whatever. Like at the end of the day, they're bare naked. You pull them out of the water, and they're literally freezing in minus 10 degree weather or colder, like instantly. So yes, great point. Take a picture, quick picture, throw them back in, and let's try and keep his money.
Well, like the nicest thing I've heard this week is, my favorite term is polar vortex. Like, and I can't wait for the polar vortex to come and kind of sort things out. So I'm not like, I'm going to go check some ice this week. Locally, Trevor's in exam week this week, his high school, but he's got a couple PA days, Wednesday and Thursday. So we're going to go get the ice chisel out, get the picks. And I believe a couple of the local lakes, inland lakes, will have safe ice. But I will go check and be careful.
Fantastic.
You know,
Well,
so,
I just want to prepare everyone for next week. Jay and I are going to we're obviously going to pick a species of fish that is misidentified. Especially with the Winter Fish Fest coming up on Wednesday, it would be a great segue into that segment. Not to mention, and I know you shared a few links already in the comments that we didn't get to, but if you have an event, know of an event, or somebody's trying to promote an event, make sure you send it to either Jay or I, and we will help promote it for you on.
In the chat, Scotty, actually bring up a couple of, just highlight a couple of the tournaments. So I'm involved right now in the Lake Simcoe Jumbo Showdown, the perch contest with Dave Chong.
Yeah.
And his buddies are running it. So that's a perch contest. It's running right now till almost the end of February. So it's never too late. And I'm telling you, if you're going to go to Lake Simcoe and you're going to go perch fishing, enter the contest. Don't worry about entering a fish. Now, there's a minimum size length that's got to be 10 inches, and there's a lot of 14-inch perch. John White is killing it on there. There's two prize categories. There's longest perch and your best 5 perch. Okay, so there's the individual fish, and there's the stringer category. I don't have any fish entered yet. I've caught a couple over 10, but if I don't catch one over 13, I'm not entering it. Like, it's not even going to be close. But the reality is you can win tons of prizes. So just last night they announced, if you go to the Facebook page, click on it, check out some of the prizes. They gave away Raptors tickets yesterday.
Wow.
Trevor won a prize, some sort of bucket of goodies. He's getting a bucket of tackle. There's a bunch of those. And they're giving out a ton of free fishing trips to local hut operators on Lake Simcoe. And we're only in the first couple of weeks of this contest. And the guys who are running the event, they have a ton of sponsors. The one that's going to start soon is there's the Lake Whitefish one that I also posted. So I'm kind of tempted to get my ticket in, even if I don't go to Lake Simcoe. I might just want to get my ticket in the raffle just for some of the great prizes. I'm not even joking. It's fantastic. So I don't do a lot of lake trout and whitefish chasing. I'm a panfish person in the winter. But definitely check out those two contests. If you're going to be in Lake Simcoe and you're going out with an ice hot operator, or you're going out on your own, it's $50 to enter, but the prizes are great. And part of the proceeds are going to go to Canadian Tire Jumpstart program to get kids out doing sports. So it's two great events that are going on. You know, one's on right now and one's going to be starting soon. So definitely sign up.
Awesome stuff. Great things that we may revisit next week, Jay. As always, my friend, the time flies, absolutely flies.
Okay.
But, is there anything upcoming this week that you wanted to pay or have us pay attention to?
No, I just please pay attention to the weather. Yeah. Watch the weather this week. If you're going to go out fishing, dress warm. It's going to be cold this week, but that's good. And looks like we're going to have ice, a lot more ice. And I hope for all of my Southern Ontario friends, well, some are on this chat tonight and some aren't, but we've been talking locally, especially our local businesses and bait shops.
Amen.
They've been reaching out to me. So I'm praying we get some local ice for a few weeks to get everyone out on the ice down here. So
that's awesome. Well, listen, as always, really appreciate your time, Jay. Can't thank you enough for every money that you spend with us and all you do, even after it's done. Some of the links that you send and answering questions, again, do really appreciate all your efforts. And we thank you from the bottom of our community's heart.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Right on, dude. You take care of yourself. Well, there it is. Another show. Can't believe it. 2 hours. Look at that. Unbelievable. And all of you that stuck by us and stuck with us right to the very end, can't thank you enough. Again, love all the interaction that goes on here. Love your comments. Love your questions. Love the fact that you guys, keep it positive. We do every once in a while walk that tightrope, walk that line, but our community keeps us in line and keeps us on track. So we really appreciate that. To Jim, Lawrence, and Jay, can't thank them enough. Mike, also a big reminder, the Winter Fish Fest starts February 1st. So make sure you're signed up and ready to go. And if you are a family looking to compete, doesn't matter how many anglers that are a part of your family, make sure you reach out to us. The post is on our CFN page. It's pinned right at the top. So make sure you hashtag your family name if you are going to enter. Again, all you got to do is go out and catch a fish. It's real, real simple. No measurement required. All you got to do is take a selfie on the Facebook end of things. All you got to do is take a selfie and stick out your tongue. That's the only way to validate the fish. Folks, thanks for your time. Thanks for being you. Love you all. You guys take care of yourself. Have yourself a great week. And as Jay, Lawrence, and Jim mentioned today, just get out and fish. Just fish, baby. Dave, it's time, buddy. Take us away. All the best. Cheers.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.